How's it going, everybody? Will Curran, Endless Events, back here, Event Icons, joined by the lovely Brant Kruger in the house. And today's episode has long been in the making. We were talking about how excited we've been and how long we've been waiting for this episode to happen. And we're talking about how to make your events more theatrical. If you're probably a theatrical person, you're probably thinking, no duh, like, obviously, there's so many things in common with theater and events. But if you're thinking to yourself, well, what does theater have to do with events? You're in for an amazing treat. You're going to learn about all the nerdy terminology that we all love dearly, that we love to spit out all day long. And we're going to talk about how you can use concepts from theater to make your events even better. So why don't we get started? Let's rock and roll this thing.
It's Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of #EventIcons.
Presented by Endless Events.
The show where you get to ask the icons of the events industry anything. Use the question panel on the webinar to submit your questions. Or you can hop on Twitter. Submit your questions with #EventIcons.
We'll be answering your questions live during the entire show.
Before we get started, the more people we have watching, the better conversation we can have. So please help share #EventIcons on Twitter and Facebook.
Just tell your friends to watch at www.event-icons.com.
Now, without any further delay, this is #EventIcons.
Hey, everybody. Well, we're joined by some amazing guests today. I'm literally so excited. Some people that we've been meaning to have on the show for a very, very long time. Some people that I've been on fellow podcasts with. And these guys are literally pros when it comes to theater. And I can't wait for you to hear the backstories as well, as far as what got them to this point, because you're going to see how much theater had an impact into them becoming in part of the events industry. But you know what? I tend to talk way too much, so I'm going to kick this one over to Brant to introduce our amazing group of guests.
Well, it is, and it's going to be a great discussion, and we were having a lot of fun in the pre-show, so much so that I've barely read the guest bios, so we're going to call this a cold read of the bios. We're first being joined by Brittney Lanni. She believes the collective experiences have the power to influence hearts and minds in real time. Brittney is a senior creative producer with a background in theatrical production and stage management of high-profile events and live shows. These days, her work focuses on the creative development, design, and staging of live events. Brittney's a fellow podcaster and co-hosts the specialty episode on the AV Life platform, which explores the intersection of storytelling, emerging tech, and live events. Thanks for joining us, Brittney.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is Kevin Molesworth in the lower left-hand square of our Hollywood squares that we've got going on here. Kevin is CSEP, accepted a position right out of college working for Robert De Niro's acclaimed Tribeca Productions, where he quickly learned the simple rule that whatever the assignment, you must get it right the first time. Building on that foundation, he went on to become one of the most sought-after event designers in New York, as well as an award-winning theatrical director and producer. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here.
All right, and last but certainly not least, Sarah Cissna, recovered theater director and stage manager turned special event producer with over 20 years experience creating shows and events, passion for small business and organizations, striving to make a difference in the community and the lives of others, proud member of the William and Mary tribe with a curiosity about how things work, believer in lifelong learning, member of the International Live Events Association, currently serving as the president of the Greater Washington, D.C. chapter. Sarah.
Hi.
Hello.
Brant's so good at that. Have you guys noticed how he's so good at that?
I think I should have been a game show host in another life, or perhaps
in another life for sure.
Let's see what's behind door number 5.
So
what have we got for our contestant?
So real quick, Brant, I know there's enough to talk about here for at least 3 episodes, and I know I've been saying at the end of a lot of episodes recently, it's like we could totally do another episode on this. So I'm gonna try to do something new and do this on the fly. This is all live, everyone. I'm gonna have you guys do your what got you in the events industry in 1 sentence. So I know that's going to be a challenge, but if you can kind of explain, maybe we'll do 2 sentences. What got you into theater? And then how did you get from theater to the events industry? There you go. 2 sentences. How's that sound? These guys' stories are like awesome. I just know that like there's so much to talk about here. So why don't we kick it off, Brittney? You want to do start with your what got you into theater and then what got you in the events industry?
Grandma got me into theater because she loved the arts. And what got me into live events? Love, actually. It had me move cities, and I was looking for opportunities, and I just found a really great opportunity meshing both my love for theater and the live environment, as well as leadership development.
Awesome. And now you're working in this role and being a producer primarily, correct?
Correct.
All
Yeah.
right, I love it. I love it. All right. Well, we'll definitely dive into the stories too, because your story, as far as like you creating, she created her own basically show in high school. It's crazy. We'll get to that story eventually. Kevin, what got you into theater and what got you in the events industry?
I was bitten by the bug when I was hornswoggled into auditioning for a play in college, and I loved it, loved the experience. The fellow actors, the director, never looked back. The transition from theater to live events happened because of an opportunity. And it's a really long story, so I'll just say an opportunity.
I love it. I love it. And then your role is primarily focusing on design aspects, correct?
Well, production design is what I do in events.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Sarah, you're up.
I don't know what got me into theater. It just kind of always was. But I guess a really awesome high school theater teacher got me into it as a career. And then the horrible hours and awful pay got me away from theater and finding something where I could use all of my theatrical skills and not feel like my MFA student loans were for complete naught, got me into events.
Ooh, okay, cool. And also doing the producing role as well.
Yes.
Awesome. I love it. I just want to make sure everyone kind of context into as far as like how everyone's lens kind of comes into it. So I had one question.
Can I do mine?
Yeah, do it. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I guess Brand, you're kind of here too.
No, just because it's great for one sentences. So I was in theater for a long time, and right out of college, I got a job at a theatrical rental house. That was my theater part. And how I got into events was I got fired.
I love it. Love it. And I said I'm the least theatrically trained person here. I didn't have really theater in high school, so we basically the only theater experience I have is a lighting design class in college. So I think what's interesting though is that how everyone has theater experience from schooling is how kind of everyone dived into it first, which is obviously a good testament to how that's a great program for people to get into it. So my first question for you guys, because this show's going to run itself. These guys can talk for days. They got awesome ideas. So my first question to you is an oddball one. Is it GIF or GIF? So the question becomes, there's so many terminologies that we all use in the events industry that actually come from theater. So I figured we just start the conversation by talking a little bit about those terms we use in events that are also come from theater. So let's kick it off with our first one, which is, how do you tell the direction of where someone should move on stage? So let's
downstage.
Yeah.
Stage,
left,
downstage, upstage, stage right, stage left.
House left, house right.
And how can, for someone who doesn't know theater, like how do you explain that?
The way I always explain it is that actors are selfish. It's like all about me, all about me. So stage directions are from the actor's point of view when they're on stage. So it's their right and their left. So as you are talking, on stage, and then if you're sitting in the house or in the audience area, it's wherever you are.
Damn, that was
with apologies to all of my actor friends.
Well, you're not wrong.
I'm right. Yeah.
So,
well, and then you also find, it's like a hazard of the job. You always refer to that. So whenever you're talking about anything, it's like, oh, it's to the right of this. And it's like, it's to house right of that. Or it's like to the stage right of that.
I love it. What do you guys think are other terms that you guys find in being important in that you have pulled and learned from theater? And feel free to jump. Anyone can jump.
I'm just going to keep talking unless someone keeps...
For me, it's lighting stuff. Like you will, you said you took a lighting course, even though you had a different major outside of theater. But in addition to my acting and directing courses, we were required to take some technical theater stuff, so we have an understanding of stagecraft and costume design and things like that. But I did gravitate towards lighting because I think as a director, I think there's just so much you can do with that. As Brittney said, sometimes when you're producing your own shows, budgets are limited. So maybe you don't have the most amazing, Les Miserables costumes and these, but you have lights. So what can you do with what light you have? And so I gravitated towards that. And so now, especially with my events, not only is lighting really important to me, but lighting terminology. And so if I have an intern, some of the first things they're going to learn, it's not going to be floral design. It's not going to be about this and that. It's going to be like lighting, right? And we'll get to catering and stuff like that too. But from a design perspective, you're going to learn about lighting. Yeah. You're going to know what a Lico is day one. Yeah.
I would say that, Will, there's definitely some safety terminology or some best practices that we do in theater, in particular for load in and load outs. As many of our fellow event professionals know, you're usually loading in and teching in a very constrained time period. So things like when you're having a truss or rigging come in and they say line set such and such, or truss coming in, actually responding. I am that person who is always responding, because I have seen far too many people get hurt in situations like that. So that's definitely one that I would say. And, I have earned the nickname Safety Brittney on some of our show sites because of that, because I'm like, here's this black drape and there's nothing behind it except for 4 feet until the floor off this platform. Maybe we should do something about this.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I'd say that that's definitely something that I bring into my on-site experience.
Along those lines, I find I pull back to my stage manager days when I'm announcing like half-hour call and places and 5. And so I'm always like, ladies and gentlemen, it is half hour. We're at half hour until the doors are open, half hour. And people are like, what? Or like, and be like, ladies, we are doors are opening. And also like turning over the house and being sure that if we're like opening the doors to a venue, that people know it's actually in my production schedule that so-and-so is the person that cues the opening of the door. So people don't just like start opening doors on their own.
And even then they still sometimes do that.
But yes, they do. But I'm like, you said you're like such and such coming in. I'm like, thank you. Just always. I mean, I tweeted, I was like 15 minutes until we're live, and like parentheses.
Back to the safety one, you tickled the back of my brain, and just reminding of folks that if you are wandering around, and it's still setup time and things like that, to be aware of your surroundings, and that the tech crew, they've got their things that they're working on, and they're very focused on that. They're not necessarily paying attention to where planners are wandering around, during the thing. So when you do hear things like truss coming in or something like that, make sure that you're not in a way. And then the other big one that's important to remember is the word heads.
Yes.
Anytime somebody's working on ladders or scaffolding or up on lights or anything like that, if you shout heads, you duck and cover if you're anywhere in that area. And this, going way back to my actual theatrical experience, I literally saw the stereotypical sandbag, come down, inches away from someone's head on a fly system, and the whole theater just came to a stop because somebody yelled heads. And fortunately, you freeze where you're at. You don't go jumping or moving. And because they froze and didn't move, it didn't hit them. So extra little safety tip. Hey, that was cheery.
Yeah.
But just as we're talking about events and planners and stuff like that, be sure, if that's not your business, be paying attention to what's going on around you.
Mm-hmm.
I also have rolls of black gaff and white gaff in my kit, and I'm totally annoyed when I see anyone on a site using duct tape to tape down cords, and you're like,
that's a huge no-no.
Or if you have like a black carpet and someone's putting down white gaff or whatever, like that also, like, no.
Let me get this for you.
Let me get this for you. Yeah. I think overall, as a director, I didn't come to directing from performing. I came from stage management, and I'm a Gemini. So it's like the two worlds. And then events have both of those worlds, which is great. But as a director, I can tell you that it looks right for you to cross downstage at this point in time. I don't know why. I just know that in terms of the visual storytelling, that's the right thing to do. So I find that while that was a hindrance to me as a director, because I couldn't figure out like what you need to feel to make that happen, I can say, like, this is how this picture should be composed. And this is why this should go here and this should go here. And so that's definitely been a help, which is great.
Well, I think that, Sarah, goes to show flow, right? Like a director who's out in the house looking at it during rehearsal, you're painting pictures, you're making tableaus. I mean, there's no question. But also, we understand flow. So if you have an actor who makes a choice to have this really dramatic pause, you're like, that's cute and all, but it's self-indulgent, and we're all sitting here bored. So you have to cut that pause in half. And that's the same thing, like, when you have a CEO up on stage who's trying to do jokes that are not landing, or a groomsman who's telling stories during a toast and nope, like there's no frame of reference. Yeah. I'm always thinking about show flow. Here's where the guests enter. Here's why they enter this way. There's a reason. It's not just whatever, you know, in every single thing on my timeline, there's a purpose. And there's also about ebbs and flows of energy, you know, about where things happen and why I place it there. Like if I have 300 sweaty, hot, naked bodies on a dance floor partying it up, I don't go, all right, everybody, let's stop. The CEO wants to give us
remarks.
Well, you just killed it. You just killed it, you know? So yeah, not only painting the picture, but show flow is something I think that all theatrical people are constantly thinking about, that energy.
Yeah, and also what that lasting impression is. You know, what is it when the attendee leaves that room, leaves that event? What is it that they are going to be taking back with them? What is that takeaway? And I definitely think, you know, from pre-show to post-show, that's like, you know, you always have to look at that arc and what are those moments? Where are you building momentum? Where are you decreasing it? And how are you doing that in a relevant and intentional way? You know, not just to have like a dance troupe appear on stage for dancing.
You have the money to do it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Or or some cool lasers or something. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the thing is, again, theatrical people, we're storytellers, and I believe the event should tell a story too. And there's an act 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I know, again, that's another nerdy thing that I do if I'm on site, or actually in the pre-planning phases, I would say with other vendors and creative partners, we talk about, okay, act 3. As if that's like a thing, you know, like we have an actual script, but we know what that means. We know it's like, oh, something's going to happen here. It's act 3, you know, 4, 5, etc. So the whole Shakespearean plotline thing. But yes, telling stories.
I love you for that right now. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
I think about that all the time.
Preach it. Yeah. Preach it.
There's a reason why 4 and 5 are always so short. 3 is the longest, 4 and 5 are the shortest because you want to get it out. Well, and I also think a lot about, you know, I worked in-house at a couple of regional theaters, and it's not just about the show that's on stage, it's about that entire experience. So it's everything from like making the decision to go to a show. So how did you hear about it? And then how did you actually make the decision to buy a ticket? What was that ticket buying experience like? Was it easy? Did you get tacked on with like $15 of fees at the end? Like you're like the relationship that person has with your play, with your organization starts at that very beginning. Same thing with your event. How are they hearing about your event? How are they buying a ticket? How are they, like, what is valet like? Or was the metro crap? Like, what are all of those things? You could have an amazing event and like they're leaving, they're like, oh my gosh, I love this organization, I want to support them. And then if the valet line is 45 minutes long, you blew it. You blew it. You lost everything you just did.
They lost me in Act 5.
Right. Exactly. That's all they're going to be talking about at the office water cooler tomorrow is, oh my God.
Is how bad it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So guys, we want to take this opportunity to remind everybody that's watching to please drop your questions into the chat roll at event-icons.com. Or if you're watching us kind of behind the scenes on Facebook Live, you can drop your questions in there and they'll funnel them to us. You know, as we start to cross this over into how we take theatricality to events, I want to go back and ask you guys about one more kind of theatrical term that popped into my head that I think is incredibly useful and is one of the ones that I use as far as speaker management, and that is the use of a green room. So if one of you guys want to talk to that specifically, what a green room is, and then kind of as by way of transitioning to events, kind of how we use them in an event context.
Well, very rarely are they green. I will start with that.
And there's all sorts of legend as to why it's called that.
Right.
Because green was the cheapest color paint back in the day.
I heard it was because they actually were out on the green.
That's not what I heard. Now, I don't know what the over there. You
It's
don't
GIF.
know.
It's GIF, okay?
GIF. It's definitely GIF.
It's a gift, yeah.
And how about as far as their use in events?
I find that you rarely have one. I mean, unless you're in a true theater space, you have to sort of have a makeshift green room, which, again, green room has become a term, which is this catch-all for wherever your speaker or performers are getting ready. Which is, a green room is different than a dressing room. Green room is more of a holding space.
Yes.
For the most part, right? A dressing room is like where they get ready, dress, hair, makeup, and all that, and then they move to the green room in the truest sense of things. That's really how it should be done. But yeah, I mean, it's really rare that you have one, and you want it to just be a relatively small, comfortable space, maybe some lounge furniture in there that's very, very close to the stage, preferably with a monitor, so they can hear and maybe even see what's going on, and then someone, a PA or someone who's going to go actually physically get the person, bring them to the wings, and then, have them hit that cue right on time. That's in a perfect theatrical world. Event world, a little different.
I usually find that we get shoved into a speaker ready room that's across the entire venue, and you're like with all the speakers together, and then I still have to walk across the entire venue, so I end up just sitting outside of the room most of the time, like for breakouts at least. That's how I felt it is.
So it's a great way of making your speakers feel wanted, right? And make, comfortable, ready to go, relaxed, So even just carving out a little bit of space backstage, and like you said, Kevin, put, some couches and a monitor back there just so that they don't have to be down the hall and around the corner. It's a great way of not only keeping them comfortable and relaxed, but also keeping them handy, and you don't have to go hunting for them.
Exactly. Yeah. We end up usually with almost like a little green room village in the backstage area, so long as we have space for it. And it's usually, either hard or soft flats that are, configured with like, okay, here's, the CEOs and the C-suite level speakers are going to be here. And maybe your keynote speaker is going to be held in another one. Maybe you have some live entertainment. They may need a holding space as well. Even maybe a dressing room, to Kevin's point, where they may need to do a little bit more prep. I do find, however, that having that monitor in that space is really critical, because otherwise they don't want to stay in that room. They want to see what's going on. They hear things happening outside. And it's also an opportunity for people to hear what, let's say the CEO is going up to do like their, industry association address. And then that's going to be followed by a keynote speaker. That keynote who, may have only had, a conversation with, let's say, their point of contact with a meeting planning firm. It gives them an opportunity to really hear firsthand, what are the hot topics? What's top of mind for this audience and this organization, and how they can tie those different things in.
Preach.
Yeah. Do it. Monitors in the green room. Must have.
Let's see. I think there's like a million. I feel like I could go for days as far as other things that we can go as far as making things a little bit theatrical. I want to switch over to room placement and setup. And we talked a little about this in the pre-show, and as far as different ways that you can set up the room. How do you guys think from your theatrical experience that you guys have learned from that when it comes to how you design how a room is shaped, where the stage is placed, everything like that? What are kind of your go-to tips around that?
Proscenium sucks.
Think
and
beyond.
define what that is.
So basically there are three types of theatrical setups. The proscenium stage being the most traditional, where it's audience, sometimes they're raked, meaning that they're sitting at an angle. So like in old school movie theaters, or they're flat. And then there's like a stage. So there's very much this like demarcation of like the end of the audience and the beginning of the of the stage. And that's where you get the term fourth wall, when that would be the fourth wall. And then there's a thrust, which is similar to that. And it can be anything from just kind of coming out just a smidgen to like really being like a full, like almost 360 degree, like 300 degree thrust where the audience is seated all the way around. Similar sort of to a runway show where you could have, you know, guest seating, sitting all around. And then there is theater in the round, which is exactly that. The arena stage in DC is the sort of quintessential version of it, where the stage is in the performance space is in the middle and the audience sits all the way around it. I actually did my undergrad thesis in the round because I just think it's so like you can't, the audience becomes a character in the play. And as a director, whenever after a show has opened, I watch the audience. I don't pay any attention to what's happening on the stage to see. And as a producer, I do that too, right? Is our message landing? Are people paying attention? Or are they falling asleep? So when you have proscenium, it's very easy to just be a passive participant. If you think about it, when you go to the movies, right, it's up on the screen. You don't have to engage. Whereas if something if you've broken that space a little bit more, kind of blurred up the edge, then everybody's kind of part of it. That said, it's very difficult to do something in the round as an event when if we're talking about like traditional remarks.
Well, and if your speaker isn't used to it or comfortable with it,
oh, don't do it. Bad.
Panic. It's so awkward to have someone behind you, and you're like, oh, I have to turn and look at these, I have to turn over here. Like they overthink it instead of just naturally kind of talking to everybody. Yeah, it's challenging.
Yeah.
When I think of seating, I think of not so much the stage and how that affects the seating, but like with any typical event, whether it be a gala or you know what have you. I feel like there's two broad ends of the spectrum. It's form and function. And you have certain people who are just designer. And it's like, yeah, it looks pretty, but I can't see what's going on there. And you have me in this weird chair where my leg's up over my head because it accentuates the centerpiece. And like, it can't all be design. Conversely, it can't all be, you know, function either. Like, again, that's what you see like a lot of boring conferences where it's the crappy tables, like I said, you know, a little pitcher of water, here's your notepad, here's your pen, boring theater style seating and uncomfortable chairs. It has to be a blend of that. You know, a real designer, I think a good one, should be taking both into consideration. I mean, safety is another one too, paths of egress. You can't pack in tons and tons of people and there's no like, you know, access to the exit if something goes haywire. Yeah, so that's I think about that. Like it can look pretty, but it has to be functional too. There's a balance there.
Yeah, and kind of building off of that, I'm sure you guys run into this too, where there's sort of like this VIP seating, and we always want to have, you know, the board members or the whoever's sponsors, you know, up front, and you're constantly faced with this challenge with like, you know, confidence monitors. Where are the confidence monitors? Right next to those VIP tables. Where is it? Right in their way. So then you're like, okay, quality of the show, practicality, you know, their design, their experience. So there's so many different factors that sort of play into that. And I find that, you know, Kevin, we're always, you know, trying to find that balance between like, is this going to be functional? Is it going to be purposeful? But is it also going to be engaging and new and refreshing, you know?
Well, that brings up another interesting point too that I find in theater, you have no choice but to work together as a team. And you do tend to plan it as a team, right? So you have your director here who's dealing with the lighting person, you know, if you're doing, you know, lighting effects, AV effects, screens, what have you, you know, the set designer, the costume designer. They're all working together and you have this director who's got a really solid picture of it and communicating when they need to, right? So sometimes you might hire someone to do it's possible, I guess, to do like the floor plan and that design who hasn't communicated with the AV team, who they're just saying, oh, well, there's a projector, it's above head, and there's a big screen. Right, but there's also a 50-inch monitor, boom, right down in the stage. And if you didn't look at that plot, and that's what happens is on the day of, they're like, well, what the hell? I got to put the CEO's table here. And sometimes I feel that event folks tend to work in silos, and they don't communicate enough. Whereas theater folks, I feel like they do communicate more, like they get it. Like the lighting guy knows he's just important as the set designer and the costume people and the run crew. It's like we're all equal in a way. There's a nice utilitarian sort of aspect to it, but sometimes in events, it's like, I'm doing my thing, stay out of my way. Don't
Kevin,
touch my sandbags.
I want to actually build on that a little bit, because one of the things that I was most attracted to about theater in general, and music and different types of art, but theater specifically, is that coming together to try and achieve a single project or product. Yeah. And also the fact that it's in a live environment. So you have to get it right. You got one shot, whether it's, whether you're doing a 6-week run for that audience that night or that matinee, it is everything. And so I actually wrote my thesis in grad school on motivating teams. And I realized that when I had one of my summer jobs, it was hourly employees. And I noticed hourly employee performers and hourly employee technicians, for the most part, right? They both came to the same place to do the same thing, but for some reason, some of them would approach it as, this is my, my hourly job. I get a paycheck. I go home. Bye-bye. See you later. I'm here for my 8 hours or whatever I'm scheduled for. And others would see it as, this is something that I get to do, not that I have to do like these other people think. I get to do, and I get to be a part of this, and they are bought into that. And I really kind of was intrigued by this idea. I'm like, well, what's the difference? What's motivating these people differently? And a big part of it was that purpose, that unifying factor of people buying in to, working together to achieve a single end goal. And one of the things that I find most challenging in live events, but also the most fulfilling, is, sometimes I'm plopped on site and I've got half the team who I've worked with before, and the other half I haven't, in terms of our technical team. And here I am day one, and I'm handing out production books, and I'm saying, here's all the resources, right, that we need to put this together. And the challenge for me is to get all these people in sync and on board and bought in to what this overall project or end result is going to be, and get them to execute at that level that we're looking for. Mm-hmm. And when they do, which is for the most, like, knock on wood, I've only had positive experiences, but it's thrilling because, here's a bunch of strangers, seemingly strangers, maybe a matter of 12 hours ago. And here we are, teching through a full production together and putting, what seem to be all these disparate elements together to create something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
To me, that was always kind of the magic of theater, right? Is that you start with an empty stage, and then after the strike, you finish with an empty stage. And that was always kind of one of my favorite moments, was like after everything was taken down and you're down to just like the ghost light hanging in the theater, on an empty stage.
And, really there.
Same with events, right? When you're all done, you're back to that terrible carpet, that's on the floor, mm-hmm. and maybe there's some dust that needs to be swept up, and then but you're back to that same thing. I want to ask you guys, you touched on a little bit about what theatricality we're bringing into our events. You touched on a little bit of that in that discussion, but I want to have each one of you kind of say, if you had your dream main stage, what would that include? Obviously, Sarah, very anti-proscenium. But so what would that main stage look like? Would you be flying in scenery? Are you using round tables? Dream big. So if you had your druthers, what would it be? Kevin, let's start with you.
Well, using the three that Sarah said, if I wasn't limited to that, I would say the Super Bowl halftime show, which is a giant football field and stadium. That would be the dream job. Or Olympics opening ceremony. But
I want the Rockettes Christmas show.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
The Radio City
I'm at the
show.
Olympics. I'm at the Olympics with you. Opening
yeah.
Of
the three,
the risk of that
stages,
terrifies me.
So you each get those. You each get those. Now tell me what you do with it.
Well, so I would use a little bit of a combination, primarily proscenium with a little small thrust. Mm-hmm. Not like a big, long runway thing, right? But the ability for someone to break the fourth wall a little bit. But the reason I do like proscenium more so than round is because with round, you are really limited to what your stage set and design is going to be, because you can't be blocking too much. You're looking at like a bar stool, maybe an old wooden chair, something like that. That's pretty much your set design, you know, for in the round. And I do like the ability to change sets. I like periactoi. I like, you know, flying things in, rolling things in. I mean, in a perfect scenario, you know, I because I have a degree in education as well as theater, I know that people, and more, this gets worse every year, we become like memories of a goldfish, and our attention spans get less and less. And it used to be in education that they'd say you could hold an adolescent's attention for about 43 to 45 minutes, which is why class lengths were that long. But you still need to change topics about every 12 minutes, right? Or you need to move or transition or do it differently, right? Well, I find that even adults are that way now, myself included. I'm totally ADHD. But yeah, any time that, I mean, right now you do it with a lot of times with like light changes. But if I really had like unlimited budget, unlimited access, then yeah, give me an amazing proscenium theater with a little built-out thrust, and I would be moving things constantly, just bringing in all sorts of new things every 5 minutes.
You know, it's a really good example of that is I think if anyone hasn't seen the, I think it's like the special effects show at Universal Studios, like they're constantly like educating you on these different topics, but there's things moving in and out. And obviously it's super theatrical, but it keeps you engaged 100% for that hour-long, 2-hour-long thing. And I think it's super duper exciting. So that's a good thought process, Kevin. Brittney?
I like to play with reveals a lot. So I'm a huge fan of scrim. I recently actually incorporated some scrim vertical panels in a design that we did in Times Square for a foundation gala dinner. And we played around with revealing live violinists actually behind them. And then they came out and did a whole performance with wide video across multi-screens. I would definitely say just keeping it dynamic with reveals, with moving, you know, heck, if I could have a round table, I would totally do that. I would definitely say flying LED panels. I know that there's like the ability to track different elements, scenic elements with projection, but I find more and more recently what I've been seeing with LED is that it's super bright and really high definition. And I feel like there's a lot there that has still yet to be explored with that. But yeah, I mean, I think my biggest thing is keeping it moving and being able to have the flexibility, different tools in your toolbox to guide the attention. Oh, the other thing that I was going to say is levels. I see far too often we're kind of like, oh, well, we'll just get like the stage decking from the convention center or whatever. And sometimes we forget that they actually have different heights or the ability to play with that. So even just saying, oh, there's going to be a panel conversation at the end of every session, let's say, or a fireside chat, and staging that off to one side in perhaps a lower area or even a higher area makes all the difference, I think, and really helping the audience to kind of digest the information. I find that a lot of events that we produce are not only educational and meant to be inspiring, but also supposed to be entertaining. So, you know, you want to keep it, you want to be able to keep the pace moving, to Kevin's point, so that, you know, you can get through all your content in a way that will keep people really engaged in the moment.
Boom, that was awesome. And we have some questions coming in, which I'm going to get to in just a second. So for all you guys asking questions, I hear some stuff about budgets. That's, I think, one idea right there is related to using the different levels of staging. Doesn't cost you any extra money, and the venue will do it for free. So, Sarah, why don't you hit us with your dream stage?
Sketching stuff out.
She's drawing it out. Is there a CAD design done yet?
Periactoi.
Yeah.
I super love that you busted out the term periactoi. Like, so nerdy.
I used it in search of it a couple years ago, remember? Well, turn, periactoi,
turn. We used them for Seven Brides for Seven Brothers in high school.
We got 3 for 1.
3 for 1, exactly. Yeah. My in-laws are using them right now in a show. My in-laws are very theatrical. So I should point out, that I got out of theater My job interview for my first event job was the day after my first date with my now husband, who's a theatrical lighting designer. So I left the profession and then got right back into it by marriage. Anyhow, the majority of my clients are nonprofits and arts organizations who are nonprofits. So I don't have those kinds of budgets, so I don't ever think about that. And that undergrad thesis that I did in the round used one rehearsal block, and that was it. And for me, the important thing is theater comes down to the relationship between the actor and the audience. Like without those two components, you don't have a play. You don't have a production. And it's great to be able to say we have all of this money, but I find that the most interesting things come out of having not a lot of money. And my company is named The Side Lobby. That's at William & Mary in our theater building, where we sat in the side lobby and figured out how to do great shows with not a lot of money or not a lot of time, or we usually had time, but not a lot of staff, maybe, if we were all sort of doing tons of different shows. So I like to say, like, think about how can we start from let's start from that objective, going back to the why, like what are we trying to achieve? And then how do we then layer on top of that? Everything else is just icing. You need a strong foundation. If you don't have that strong foundation, you're screwed. So, and I feel like, oh, yay. I feel like, you finally get to this point of like, oh, we're going to have fireworks and it's going to be great. And you're like, and what's the message? And they're like, I don't know, but we're going to have fireworks. It's going to be great. And
there will be lasers.
It'll be great. And you're like, but then you leave the event. The person leaves, the guest leaves the event, and they're like, I have no idea what I saw, but there were lasers. And I don't know what that organization was, but they had cool lasers. And also, as working with nonprofits, there's also the danger of like, wait, did they just use my money for a laser show and not for the art, or not for the cause, or not for the whatever? So that for me is hard. However, I will say that the one thing, if you're going to have any sort of ICAM, IMAG, you need to think about what's behind your people.
Can you define what IMAG is for those who don't know what IMAG is?
Sorry, image magnification. That is a great term. Image magnification, meaning you have a camera that makes someone's face huge, right? So someone is standing at a lectern. On
a podium?
They're standing on the podium behind the lectern.
Cool. All right, good.
Thank you. And you might have this amazing backdrop and amazing thing, but maybe it's just like this plain gray spot behind them. Well, then you just stick it up on these giant projection screens, and all I see is a head in front of a gray spot. It's like, goes back to, what is it, the Nixon-Kennedy debate, where like they say that Kennedy won because Nixon was wearing a gray suit and blended into the background. You have to be—
And he's sweating, apparently, like profusely.
Oh, there you go, right? So tell your speakers what your backdrop's gonna look like. Look at what is happening in that tiny little box, and then look at what's happening around.
I love it. So good. So we're starting to get some questions in from the audience. So shout outs to Nicole Park out in our audience. Thank you for asking your question. Nicole, see, there you go. There you go. Nicole asks, what are some of the high impact things that you can do to increase your theatricality? It's such a hard word, of an event without a big budget. So basically, how can we make our events more theatrical but on a budget? So obviously, like more lasers, LED panels is awesome. How can you do this in a small way? We talked about the levels of staging, right? The venue can just change. That's no cost, right? What sort of other cool tips you guys have that would save?
Depends on what you're looking at.
All right, yeah. Sarah, go ahead and hit it.
So different heights of risers or staging isn't necessarily cheaper if your venue is not providing it, right?
True, that's true.
So
yes,
it could be something that you have to bring in. So I would go back to what Kevin was saying originally. Lighting is your easiest way, because you need lighting for three primary functions of lighting, right? The first is to see things. If the light is not on, you can't see anyone. So we know that there's going to be some sort of lighting in there. And even if you're just working with what's in a space, you can still control it. So we need to be able to see things. And then you can also use lighting to draw focus and say, look over here. Theater is different from film in that you have to tell the audience or the guest where to look, and using either movement or set pieces or a really big giant hat someone might be wearing, or lighting. If you're focused on one spot, there you go. And then also to create mood. So with those three, and I knew those things before I married a lighting designer, by the by. And so you can do that with lighting, and there, you can always build on to things, but these days, moving lights are so much more financially accessible, and also just being able to go through, you can have a color scroller, or LED lights we're seeing, and you can control the color, so you can change the mood of your room multiple times throughout an event, whether it's a standard like speaking engagement or maybe a seated dinner. You can change the feel in the room and tell that story throughout.
I would also say sound, right? So
Yes.
very similar principles. You're going to need to
Right.
hear things, right? At a very fundamental, practical level. And I find a lot of times that audio design, it's very critical in theater, but is often overlooked in live events. And, you can be playful with your song selection. You can really set the tone and set the mood. You can have like a sort of like sultry, jazzy, very, what's the word? Like elegant that, feel to your event. It could be really high energy. You could bring a DJ in, even without the DJ, just creating a playlist that sort of embodies, maybe it draws in themes from your event or even local. I'm actually doing an event in Austin next spring, and we're bringing in all the playlists is all local Austin artists that have this really cool indie vibe. So that's probably one of my favorite hats to wear as a senior event producer is the audio design, and really trying to pinpoint what should that moment feel like? What's the vibe in the room when I walk in or when I walk out? Yeah. Do I want to be listening to some blaring EDM while I'm eating dinner? Probably not. But maybe when I want to get the audience really hyped when they're first walking in, maybe that's, the direction I go. Mm-hmm. We also did an event for a fundraiser for the Cates Foundation that focuses in on diversity and inclusion and really promoting that on all sides of the cable industry. And so all of the songs for that had to do with embracing diversity. They were all different sounds, everything from Bollywood to Latino reggaeton. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity there also just at your fingertips. You're going to have speakers in there, to Sarah's point. So make the most of it and leverage it in an intentional way.
I have been corrected. Apparently my husband is watching. There are 4: selective visibility, revelation of form, mood, and composition.
Love it.
Why is he not in the chat right now? He needs to get in on the chat.
I don't know.
Which you can do at event-icons.com.
Yeah, good plug.
All right, guys, it's always amazing how fast the hours goes by. So we want to try and get one more question in here. I'm kind of skimming through some of the things that we wanted to talk to you guys about. As we always say, we're probably going to have to do a version 2 of this, a second episode. And I would also just love to do a hangout episode sometime and just tell theater stories, because there's always some really good theater stories in addition to the great stories that we get in events. What about scripting? This is kind of a controversial thing sometimes as to whether or not CEOs and other speakers should be scripted. Obviously in theater, we start with the script, but then eventually memorize it and have the ability to ad-lib off of that script, where not quite so much so often when it comes to corporate. How do you guys feel about scripting when it comes to meetings and events?
Here in DC, I say script away. I had an entire dinner derailed by a politician who had 3 minutes and took 30. 30. And
I had
he
a congressman
was
laugh
not engaging at all.
I had a congressman laugh at me once when I was like, and here's the timer. And they were like, I'm going to ignore that, thanks. I was like, okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. And then when you have multiple who go over. Yeah. I think it's one of those things you can try. But then again, I worked an event with a comedian who was emceeing, and he was like in between things. He was going back and talking to the teleprompter guy. He's like, all right, I want to change this. I want to change this. He was keeping it scripted because it was on the teleprompter, but he was like, you know, he was making revisions to it in real time based on what was happening rather than just like flying off in the realm. And I just had so much respect for how in the weeds he was in a very good way.
At the same time, that teleprompter operator probably hated him.
Yeah.
I would say, you know, that was probably one of the biggest hurdles transitioning into live events, because I was so used to having this script to work on and be a detective and sort of find every prop movement and track everything. And then here you're thrust into the live events world where the script is usually changing up until, you know, the moment, not even doors, sometimes past doors. And so I think that, you know, it depends on the various elements that may be impacted by that scripting. I know oftentimes when we have executive speaking, we do have intricate graphic cues that really try to elevate and visualize some of their key points. So that is really kind of critical for us to be able to execute that well. But the flip side of it is it does, the flip side of this I see oftentimes is the struggle with the storytelling. And if the person who's writing the script is just focused on, I'm going to cover these messaging points and not looking at, in theater, we call them beats, right? These moments, these frames where you're talking about one thing and then there's a sort of natural shift and transition to either another topic point or you're going to dive deeper. Sometimes those aren't built in. And then they would turn to me and say, okay, well, can we do some speaker coaching? And I'm like, well, we have to go back to step one because I can't coach you on the story that's not well written, you know? But I have to say that so nicely and with a smile on my face and be very diplomatic about it in a high pressure situation. So, I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with scripting. Let's just put it that way.
I think I'll jump in just a little bit here. The thing that I like about scripting is, again, you think, okay, I'm going to talk for 3 minutes. I know what 3 minutes feels like. Not when you're on stage, you don't. Like, you might think it's been 3 minutes, but it's been way more, right? So I think the other thing, too, this goes to sort of a combination of what both Brittney and Sarah had said, is when I expect stand-up comedians and actors to be great on stage. I just give them a thing, or maybe I improv it or have them improv it, whatever, that's fine. But maybe your CEO isn't a great speaker. Maybe they're a financial wizard. So when you hand them anything changes last minute, that can panic them. But not only that, even if it is scripted, it's not changes. All right, are you using a presidential prompter? Because if you've never used one before, that's a little different. If you have a monitor on the floor, well, are they looking down the whole time? Are they not looking up? Or the worst is when they have notes in front of them and never look up. Like, you know, and what they don't understand is that actors, performers, stand-up comedians is they work on this.
They rehearse.
They practice. Yeah. It doesn't really come naturally.
It doesn't just happen.
Yeah, like to anyone. It's a process. You practice it. You learn, like, okay, I'm going to look down, and then I look up, and I look over here. And then even if you, like, take presidents are the perfect example. There are some presidents when they have those two clear things, right? That's the presidential prompter, for those who don't know. And it's got this thing on the floor that shoots up basically what they're reading. Someone who knows how to use that is constantly changing back and forth and then looking at the audience. It's as if it's not even there. And then you have some presidents who just stare at one forever, finish the sentence, and then they go on to their next sentence and they do that. And it's like, dude, practice. You need to practice. And it's a challenge when, you know, as Brittney said, it's the CEO of the company. So you have to sort of sell them on the idea of, like, I promise you, I'm doing this for your benefit. You don't want to look silly up there. You don't want to look like you have an 8th grade education. I want you to be smooth, fluid, and comfortable. I promise you, I'm doing this for your benefit. You do have to sell them on that sometimes, because oftentimes the CEO walks in the door 30 minutes after doors and it's like, where do I go? What do I do? Where's my speech? And I'm like, we emailed it to you 3 weeks ago. So you'd be familiar. So what you do, I think you have to sell them that we are trying to put the best product out there, and you're part of that product and part of that process.
I had a CEO once literally, like, draped over the lectern while she was speaking. And yeah, it was horrible.
All right, so we only got a couple minutes left, so we're going to do a quick fire on our last two questions that we always do, which is resources and tips, which is everybody's favorite section. So let's jump right on into everyone's favorite tip that you have for event planners. It can be theatrical or not, if you want to kind of give it to us, and then we'll jump into resources. So who's got a good tip? Dun, dun, dun. Kevin's got a good tip. He's reaching for the mute button.
I'm unmuting. Okay, my tip is this. Go see live theater.
Yes.
I don't care if it's a play, if it's a musical with a lot of razzle dazzle, perhaps even better. I don't care if it's community theater. I don't care if it's a big show in Vegas or on Broadway or in Chicago, especially then. But just go and be a spectator and look at how, oh my gosh, I keep looking at that one actress. Why? Because she's wearing a smoking hot red dress. That's why. And everyone else is in grays and neutrals, right? And why do I keep looking over there? Because it's an interesting set piece and it's lit properly. And like Brittney said, boy, we don't do enough with sound and audio and music.
Yeah, no.
We just don't. Like, yeah, okay, we play music as they come in, but it's a tool. It's a tool to set the image. Think about this. The way that you light, let's say, like a Halloween party, it's dark and there's purples and dark blues and stuff like that. That's not the way you light a baptism, right? Like, and the music, I assume, would be different as well. You're playing Marilyn Manson over here, and over here you're playing Ave Maria. All of those components, all of your 5 sentences, your eyes, your ear, all of that, think about that. And when you go and see a really good theatrical experience, or even a bad one, a bad high school play, think about it when you leave and go, man, that little girl there, that 10th grader, boy, she's got some sass. I like her. Well, what is she doing? Why is she drawing your attention versus, the football player guy, idiot, that was me, who's in the play, whatever, and he sucks and he's terrible. And lighting and costume, just go see it.
Nice. I love
it.
In
the honor of quickfire, I'm going to tag on to Kevin and say you can cultivate your creativity, and you should. Take your earbuds out when you're around. Just be an experience, but go also to museums. Just go walk into one or walk out. Pay attention to what's happening in retail. Look at store windows. Look at advertising, and listen. Like, go to a concert and like, what is that, right? It's not going to start. It tells a story as well, just like a live music concert. So you can totally cultivate your creativity. It doesn't just happen. Mm-hmm. But you have to make an effort.
Yeah, I think of it as a muscle. It's funny. I have friends or family who are like, "Well, you're so creative," and I'm like, "Well, I use that muscle more often, so it comes naturally." My tip would be find ways to empower your guests to be a part of the experience. It'll allow them to take ownership and they'll be more engaged. So whether it's creating a fun activity right when they arrive or in that pre-show environment, people for them to engage with, whether it's someone doing man on the street interviews or like a fun interactive app, what's the word that I'm looking for?
Like engagement tool?
Yeah, engagement tool. Yeah, but like gamify it, make it fun. Engagement tool sounds very blah. Sounds like we're doing like polling. No offense. But find ways to empower your guests to be a part of their experience. They will be more engaged. It'll give them excuses to interact with those around them as well.
Oh, so good. Wow. All right, quick fire. Favorite resources. So your favorite apps, books, blogs, all that jazz.
Anything by Simon Sinek.
Whoa, not all at once. That was amazing. Kevin,
that's so true. I totally want to exchange reading lists with you, Brittney.
Yes, please.
All right, I'll go first. So this is a shit answer, but no, I don't. I read, and I do blogs and apps and all that stuff, whatever. And I look at that, and I'm on Google all the time. But honestly, going to what Sarah said, my best resources are the world around me, my environment, certainly the people that I interact with. Just look at things in a new way. That's my greatest resource and inspiration for being creative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And learning from those around you. I mean, I can't not be a president of an ILEA chapter and not say that professional development is so important. Find your people and find your tribe of people and learn from them, both in the industry and outside the industry. I started working in a co-working space this year, and there are no eventy people here, but I learned so much just from the people that I'm around. And I am a member of ILEA, and I learned so much from my ILEA colleagues outside the Washington engaged in community, and enjoy, that. And there are a lot of recovering theater people in ILEA. Also, I read When by Daniel Pink over the summer, and it explains so much. And I now plan my day accordingly, and it has completely changed my life. I preached about that for like 4 months probably. And track your time. If you're not already doing it, track your time. Use Toggle, use anything else, and know where you're spending your time.
I was going to recommend Rescue Time for tracking time too.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that one.
All right, Brittney, hit us with your resources.
So I think there's a couple things out there. The AV Life podcast, shameless plug, is a great resource. Just to kind of keep an ear out to what's happening in the AV world. In particular for the event planners out there who don't have necessarily the time to go to every single expo and understand every single thing that's coming out. It's just a great way to sort of stay on top and on trend of everything that's happening. In my intro, I alluded to how I'm a co-host of one of the podcasts, and we're really exploring this intersection of emerging technologies and storytelling and live events. And one particular platform has really caught my eye. It's called Blipper. They're based in the UK. Check them out. There's lots of augmented reality platforms out there, but they have all types of tools, not only for live events, but education settings, retail as well. And there's just a lot happening out there. So check out their platform, and a ton of just fun, silly apps. There's an AR Lego app that I just discovered the other day and wasted entirely too much time playing with. But seriously, I think that VR is great for storytelling. I think everything has a time and a place. I think AR is going to be an added digital layer to live events in our world in the future. So it's all contextual, which is what I love about it. And check it out, and check out our podcast as well.
Fantastic.
Real quick, I got a quick resource. Another book, my favorite book I'm reading right now. It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work is the name of the book, by Jason Fried, who's the Basecamp guys. It's basically like why we all say, oh, it's so crazy at work, and why we all should stop saying that.
All right. Well, guys, I'm trying to get us out on time. Brittney, Lanni, Kevin Molesworth, and Sarah Cissna, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Again, fantastic conversation. I can't wait to have episode 2 of Bringing Theatricality to Events.
So much fun.
Please do let us know where folks can get a hold of you. We'll put it on the show notes page, and we'll add that in there so people can find out and follow you and find out all the good things that you guys are up to. We want to also thank Reed, Victoria, Nicole, and everybody else that joined us in the chat room, asking questions over there, watching on Facebook. We want to remind everybody that recorded live every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here, Event Icons, where you can watch behind the scenes on Facebook Live. And then it gets released the following Tuesday on iTunes, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, or whatever your favorite podcast app is. And most importantly, though, we want you to go to event-icons.com. That's where you can see the show notes. You can see the resources that we just talked about, the books we just talked about. That's the best way for you to sign up and join us live every week. Get in the chat room. You can watch, you can chat, all on the same page. It's fantastic. So we want to know what you think. Tell us what icons you want to have on the show. You can use the chat. You can shoot us an email. You can use the hashtag EventIcons on Twitter. You can do it on Facebook. Tell us who you want to see on the show so that we can make sure we get the people you want to talk to on the show. And thank you so much all for joining us, and we'll see you next week on Event Icons.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of #EventIcons. To catch the transcription and all of the resources mentioned, head to www.helloendless.com/blog. This week's episode will be posted and available by next Tuesday. Also, let us know what you thought about this week's episode. Share your biggest takeaway
And join the social conversation. Sponsored by Little Bird Told Media.
Just tag your post with #EventIcons. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on #EventIcons.